Hello, welcome back to I Sew with Joy. Today I'm going to be addressing this question that I just saw in a Facebook group I'm in. Now, when you start sewing for the first time, you may not know what stitches to use on your sewing machine, especially if you have one of those computerized machines, and or you may not know when to use the stitches. So what I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks is just sharing some of the simple stitches you get on your sewing machine and what you can use them for. So with that, I'm going to share right here, some of the stitches that you can find on a computerized sewing machine. Obviously, you will need to learn to adjust your tension and your width, and as well as the length of your stitches if you're not working with a straight stitch. But hopefully this will serve as a guide for all the beginners out there who need some help getting started. So let's get this done. Now let's get started. Today I'll be going over the first 4 stitches on my sewing machine. I'm currently working with a Brother SE600. The same first stitches you have applies to the SE625, SE400, and the SE425. So you'll see the same, or a similar set of stitches for the first 4. So let's look at what they each do and what they each look like. Let's first talk about needle placement. Speaking of needle placement, now I want you to take a look at this diagram here because it absolutely tells you what your stitches and where they're going to be placed. First, this is a little, the symbol here tells you this is your needle, this is the J foot, and this is where your stitch is going to go. So as you make adjustments or you select different stitches, you can see that it moves. So if I go back to the first one, it moved again. So again, you're going to be focused on the stitch stitch location. Now, the reason this is important is because when you go to your sewing machine plate, right here, it actually shows the distance for your seam allowance. So depending on where your stitch starts, you can then determine where your stitch allowance should be. So if you're working with 1/4 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch, you can actually do that. Again, remember, your stitch placement is where you start, and then you can go ahead and read your plate here. If you look at the very top of these first 4 stitches, what you're going to notice is that at the top there is something like a symbol there, and it actually does mean something. For this first one here, which is the most popularly used stitch, it's just telling you that your needle is slightly to the left. So as you can see there, it's denoting that, you have your stitch, but your needle is going to be slightly to the left using your J foot as indicated here. And this stitch is it's the most basic stitch. It's used just about everything, a beginner sewist and most seasoned sewists use. It's the easiest one to use, and it's the most popular one to use. 2 also pretty much is used for the same thing. However, this tells you that your needle, looking at that little symbol right there, it's telling your needle is in the center of your fabric, like based on how you're starting doing your seam or running your seam or stitch. So it's basically telling you this is exactly what it's going to be, right smack dab in the middle. Again, remember, you use 1 and 2 for the same thing. Actually, I will explain the others, but all 4 stitches are primarily used for the same thing or similar items, which is just as a general stitch for sewing, to make gathers, and for pin tucks. And, you can adjust the stitch length to make it a basting stitch, but we'll get to that in a later video. Now 3, again, looking at the top here, it tells you your needle placement. It means your needle is now placed to the right. So when I click on this, you'll actually hear my needle move. So, and if you watch this, you see that it actually moved slightly to the right, and that just means my stitches are going to be slightly to the right of where I was before. Now let's talk about stitch number 4. And this, again, it's a center. When you might have heard my machine switch from where it was before, which was my needle to the to the right. Now it went back to the center because this denotes that the needle has moved to the center. Again, these first 4 stitches are very similar. They're used for basically the same thing. For general sewing, you can use it for creating gathers when you adjust the stitch length, and you can use it for doing pin tucks, and it's the most frequently used stitch when you either start out or as a seasoned sewist. I hope you found this helpful. If you're not already doing so, please take a moment to subscribe, where I share more videos, tips, and tricks for beginner sewists.